Hello, welcome back to One Piece One Takes, and today is Friday, of course. So, chapter 1069 of One Piece has been released, and let's get into the review. So, firstly, let's start off with the title. The title is "We Owe All There Is to Desire," and we get to see the cover page, and we see we see the Lone Shark King, Lufeld, in front of a ship with basically with a peculiar shaped ship. It looks very cartoony, and it has Mads on the side of the boat with a flag that has pacifist on it. So yeah, that's what I assume is the where the operation of Mads was, with Vegapunk at the helm and Sanji's dad plus Caesar Clown being under him. And yeah, the pacifist probably means that they don't get attacked by both Navy and pirates. I think they still do get attacked, but pacifist is more like just to show people that they're not looking for any trouble, I guess. I'm not too sure. And the cover page text below, or the title, is a continuation of the Germa 66 side story. So I was wrong about the last chapter's cover page being like the last story of this Germa 66 side story, right? So the cover 1069's cover page title, or rather the cover page title, what am I saying? Yeah, the cover page title, it is a philanthropic endeavor of Lone Shark King, Lufeld, Mads, the Laboratory of Peace. So yeah, I guess Vegapunk, with his dream to provide everyone with accessible energy to make everyone happy, right? So yeah, that's pretty much him. A laboratory for peace. I don't know why it hasn't continued or if it's continuing. And I don't know why Sanji's dad, along with Caesar, left. I guess they had more nefarious goals, or if they also had similar goals to Vegapunk, but Vegapunk decided to, leave the project or switch up. But I don't know the whole story, so hopefully you get to see more info on that. Plain. So how you been? Hope you guys are doing well. It's been a great week for me. Christmas is coming soon. And yeah. Okay, anyway, the plane's gone. So we're back from where we left off in the last chapter, with Luffy's group and CP0 like meeting each other, right? Being face to face. So yeah, from that, Kaku mentions that they can't really lay a hand on Luffy's group, right? Because Luffy has just been recently crowned an emperor, and that, even a minor scuffle could lead to the start of a full-blown war, right? And the smart thing to do isn't to engage, right? But yeah, you know what's gonna happen. So anyway, Luffy finds Atlas, from the last chapter. She's been beaten by Lucci, and yeah, Luffy's all like angry, right? Because she gave them food, and she's considered a friend, right? She's a nice person, I like to think. And yeah, since she's injured, Luffy calls for Chopper to help out, help to see what he can do for her. But Chopper explains that it's more of Frankie's forte, right? Because they're kind of cyborgs or androids, not even cyborgs, I don't think. So then we cut to, to the Navy HQ to see Marine informing Sakazuki about CP0, being on Egghead Island. Or rather, not informing that CP0 is on Egghead Island, but that the Straw Hats are on Egghead Island. And that, they shouldn't engage. The CP0 shouldn't engage with the Straw Hats because, again, it might lead to war. And he also asks where Kizaru might be, and the Marine mentions that Kizaru's already left for Egghead Island, so we might just see Kizaru on top of Cypher Pole there. So that's even for an emperor, that's a pretty sketchy situation. And you'll see even more why. So we jump back to Egghead Island where we see Luffy and Lucci fighting in both their new forms. So of course, Luffy's new form is, say it with me, Gear 5th. Woo! Okay, but we get to see Lucci's new form. And basically he's awakened his cat fruit model leopard, and it basically looks like a slimmer, lankier version of his previous leopard forms, but he has the same type of smoke cloak or robes. I don't know what you could say, but smoke collar, basically the same type as Luffy, and except the only difference being that it's colored black. So yeah, and okay, I'll get into that after I've talked about everything that happened in the chapter. But I have some gripes with that. Not that it doesn't look cool. It looks cool, and it's nice. But I still have a small gripe with that. Anyway, let's move on. So Lucci has awakened his fruit, right? And then we cut to Vegapunk, like the OG. Since he just like disappeared in the previous chapter, he like just appeared out of nowhere, right? So we cut into Usopp's group, and we see the OG running into the lab and asking Shaka if the White Warrior is in the screen. So obviously referring to Luffy, right? Then we get to see basically Frankie turning into Sanji, but instead of him being not necessarily attracted, but like the same heart eyes basically. For what woman is to Sanji, Vegapunk is to Frankie, So that was a real funny detail because of course, I mean, Frankie has always wanted to meet Vegapunk, always idolized him, I think. So yeah, to finally see like your idol, like damn. I mean, who wouldn't, right? Like if I saw my idol, let's say the NBA, I really like Russell Westbrook. So if I get to like see him like in real life, first of all, that would be a dream come true. And secondly, that would be crazy, right? Like yeah, but okay. So enough about that. We we see Vegapunk asking like the crew basically about if they know of Luffy's transformation, and Nami replies him by saying that they don't really know what happened, but they mentioned that but Nami mentions that is it, or rather she says, isn't it the Gomu Gomu fruit? And like, or or isn't it part of the Gomu Gomu fruit? And yeah, rightfully so, because they don't really know what happened on the top, or they don't know the history behind it, right? So then Vegapunk mentions that there's no like word of the Gomu Gomu no Mi in the old Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, and of course they're shocked, right? And that's also a thing. So I guess the new Devil Fruit Encyclopedia mentions of the Gomu Gomu no Mi. I guess from the government was the one who made the new encyclopedia. But I guess the old one, yeah, it didn't have it. So that's what Vegapunk said. And then Usopp mentions that Luffy's always been calling it the Gomu Gomu no Mi, and again, I don't even think Luffy knows the significance of his fruit. I think he still thinks it's the Gomu Gomu no Mi, and I really like I'd really like it to keep it the way it is, right? All his attacks, all his skills would always still refer to Gomu Gomu, even if it's a different fruit, Because that's the charm of One Piece to begin with. Luffy with his rubber attacks. So even if he essentially has a god fruit, I'd hope, and I think we'll still be seeing all the attacks being referred to as Gomu Gomu something, right? So that's hopefully that's the case. Then Vegapunk basically tells the crew like he looks just like the god that was that was described in an ancient text, and refers to the god as the sun god Nika, right? Then Nami mentions that she hasn't heard of that before, and then Vegapunk says that the government has been, it's with everything else that's been wiped off from history, this is no different, right? So obviously that's why she hasn't heard of the sun god Nika before. And then in the middle of Vegapunk like talking about this, we get to see a cool clash with Luffy and Lucci in both their new forms, and it's crazy. It looks so cool. I can't wait for it to be, animated. That's the one thing I like about the anime, like the recently, like yeah, I can't wait for that to be animated. And also Gear 5, hopefully by the end of this year, but I think it might push into the next year. Hopefully this year though. That would be one hell of a Christmas present or a New Year's present, right? Anyway, yeah, we get to see them clash, and then going back to Vegapunk explaining things, he starts talking about desire, right? Which, that chapter title is called "We Owe All There Is to Desire." So he starts talking about desire and the fact that as long as people's desires, persist, uh, such a thing will never cease to be, right? Like when replying to Nami, talking about how the sun god Nika has been erased from history, allegedly. And I guess he's mentioning, or rather not a guess, but he's probably and most likely talking about how the sun god Nika will always be there as long as people's desires persist, right? And true enough. So then he mentions that they all owe or rather they owe all there is to desire, and states that devil fruits are basically a manifestation of desire to see how different paths of evolution will play out, right? So he gives an example and basically says that or rather, he gives the examples and states that more or less each fruit showcases like a different path, different paths of how evolution will take humanity. So, maybe one path could be like the leopard fruit, one path could be the god fruits, right? Or one path could just be like, they could be like Kizaru, like they could be light people, right? So he mentions these examples. However, since these deviations are not natural, of course it's gonna, like, Mother Nature's gonna take offense to that, right? So it's gonna be disgusted by it, right? And hence the fact that they can't really. Did I use hence correctly? Basically, Mother Nature's like, ew! Like, ew! And then says, no! You disgust me! No! You can't swim in the water! No! And basically, devil fruit users can't swim in the water. But in exchange, they basically, anyone who ate a fruit will live a completely like alien existence from the rest, because they're experiencing sort of evolutionary path in which the rest of humanity could potentially experience, except they aren't. So understandably why they're living an alien experience. Then yeah, from that we cut to like Sentomaru. So I was basically right. He was on the island. I don't know what he was doing, but we cut to him, and he appears with S-Hawk, S-Shark, and S-Snake. Of course, being Mihawk's Seraphim, or Mihawk's Seraph, I guess. Yeah. So language lesson, or I think it's language lesson, but I don't know. Basically, quick thing is, Seraphim is actually a multiple of Seraph. So it's not, I mean, maybe they call a single one of those creations a Seraphim, and they say Seraphims, but in real life, like, they meant it's called the singular is called a Seraph, and the multiple would be Seraphim. So that's that, and I'll just call it Seraph because it sounds natural. It sounds much more natural than Seraphims, or one Seraphim. So he appears with the Seraphims, and oh my god. He appears with the Seraphim and basically talks to Vegapunk, via like some, I don't know how he talk. Basically, he communicates with Vegapunk and says that the pirates are obviously the enemy, right? Because CP0 is part of the government and they're part of the government. In which Vegapunk replies saying that the CP0 they're actually trying to get him. So he then, like, twists Sentomaru's arm by mentioning that if it weren't for him, he would have died and starved to death, right? So Sentomaru is obviously like, damn, twisted my arm, right? Then, of course, since he's more loyal to Vegapunk than to actually the government, right? So he switches the Seraphim and their attention towards CP0, right? To instead defend from the CP0. And basically he orders S-Bear to attack the remainder of the CP0 group. And Stussy explains that there is a command hierarchy, right? So when it comes to controlling the Seraphim. So we start at the top with the five elders, or in some translation is the 5 elder stars. So they're at the top of the hierarchy, and second being Vegapunk, and the third and the fourth respectively being Santomaru and anyone else with the authority chip. So I assume that Cypherpole has the authority chips, but since Sentomaru is above them in the command hierarchy, of course S-Bear is gonna listen to him, right? So S-Bear attacks Cypherpole, and just in case you guys forgot, S-Bear is actually the Kuma model that was with Cypherpole to begin with, like before they even entered Egghead. So then, with that, Kaku mentions that destroying the Seraphim would also be a huge loss for the government, right? I mean, it's crazy expensive. They cloned someone, they gave them extra powers, so of course it's gonna be expensive, right? Then we get to see more of Luffy and Lucci's fight, and we see a new move, which is cool, called a Gomu Gomu no Mole Pistol. So what he does is he punches through the ground, and then he redirects the punch towards Lucci, which then he gets hit. So let me try to show you how it works. So, okay, say this is the ground. Say this is Luffy and Lucci tape. Don't ask me why I have these things, but anyway. So Luffy attacks the ground, right? He punches through the ground. So he punches through the ground and it goes below. And then he redirects the punch and punch through the ground and, hits Lucci. And it's not a physical thing. Like, he doesn't just break through the ground and punch through. It's more of, unless you read it or watch it when it comes out, you wouldn't really know until you see it for yourself. But basically, he affects his surroundings, right? Luffy affects his surroundings and makes them all rubber. So he punches through, and it looks like he doesn't really penetrate through, but he just pushes through the ground, and all the ground, how it was portrayed was rubbery, right? It was very wavy and stuff. So he punches through the ground, not penetrating the surface, and it seems to me, at least, like he punches through the ground, and when he punches Lucci, he hasn't even penetrated through the surface. So he literally just pushes all the way, or he punches all the way, through without penetrating the floor. Yeah, so that's cool, basically. That's cool. So, okay, let me put these things back. And yeah, that's very cool because, first of all, it adds diversity into Luffy's already diverse move pool, like and it also provides, or it increases Luffy's already unpredictable way of fighting, right? Because instead of just hitting straight, or or his Gear 4th moves where he, Python, right? Like chases them around, which is already pretty unpredictable and super fast as well. But now, he can, attack from a totally different direction and hit someone, No, not that Gear 4 doesn't do it, but you can see it. You can still see it, as long as you have, like, I guess, future sight, or even not even that, as long as you can see fast enough. But this one, he could literally punch, like, let's say you're the target, and I punch the wall, and since the wall is connected to the wall that's behind you, you're gonna get hit from the back. I don't know about you, but that's pretty crazy, and he could do a lot of damage, you know. I never thought Luffy would have some sort of stealth attack. Stealth attack. I didn't think that Luffy would have any stealth attacks, but, and not that he is stealthy, because people still see him punch, but they wouldn't see it coming, that's the thing. And I guess that also rings true to his Python move with Gear 4, but again, nobody would really expect him to seemingly punch through, right, something, and for it to like come out from behind them, right, you know, because they don't even see it expanding, like, at least for the Gear 4 Python move, right, you see it expanding, you see where the direction where it moves. So that's why I mentioned that it's gonna be like really unpredictable, basically, and I like it. I like that move. Okay, I think I talked a lot about the fighting, and I mean, it's cool, right? Okay, let's continue on. He does that Gomu Gomu no Mole pistol, and let's see. And yeah, then we get to Sentomaru, yeah, ordering S-Snake, basically Boa. Should I call them by their original name? I'll just call them by their S whatever. So, Sentomaru orders Sentomaru orders S-Snake to, you know, escort. Oh my god, I can't talk, you know. Damn. Sentomaru orders S-Snake to escort the Straw Hats to the vacuum rocket. So I guess that's their escape pod. And yeah, to the vacuum rocket, and to also see them safely through the Frontier Dome. And if you forgot what that is, it's basically a defense system that Vegapunk put in place to prevent people from, you know, going up past a certain height on the island. So and it's mentioned previously in my previous video and also on the previous chapter 1068. So yeah, he orders S-Snake to do that. Then he orders both S-Shark and S-Hawk to suppress CP0, you know. And then we get to see Jinbei, which is, of course, who is of course in shock and surprised, because he's like, you know, and he's like, he sees himself basically, and that he's shocked that, you know, all these seraphim are, you know, basically clones of previous warlords, right? Ex-warlords. Then Luffy, we cut back to Luffy noticing Sentomaru and calling him Battle Axe as his nickname, which obviously Sentomaru replies Luffy with that isn't his name, Battle Axe isn't his name, and that he's not sure if he could trust Luffy in, you know, safely bringing Vegapunk to sea, right? And he calls Vegapunk Grandpa Punk. So yeah, they're very close. And Sentomaru is also asking him about his appearance, and of course it's a very drastic change. He's like all white. Like, okay, not all white, but his hair's white, and his top is also white. His shorts are also white. I don't know about slippers. No, I don't think slippers. And actually, how I know this is, even though it's technically not animated in the anime, it's because I think I could say it already, but it showed in Film Red, like briefly, his form, which is crazy. I still find it insane how nobody except my group of friends were screaming at the reveal. I mean, Yeah, all theaters are different, but damn, it was only us, you know. Anyway, Sentomaru asks about his appearance, and then Lucci appears out of nowhere, and he does a move on. He does a new move, I guess, on Sentomaru called handgun, and it kind of just looks. It kind of looks like he basically blew a hole. He punched right through Sentomaru. So then Luffy again, same as his reaction to Atlas. He's like, oh, battle axe, and then Sentomaru's like, oh, because of course he's majorly injured, right? And Lucci's like, he basically makes an analogy of like, if we cut off the snake's head, something something something, now we control the seraphim, and it's referring to the fact that they eliminated, or rather they, cut Sentomaru off from the hierarchy, right? So now, since they have the authority chips, they can control the seraphim. Vegapunk is still there, so potentially still can't really control him, or maybe they'll control the ones in the vicinity. So S Bear, S Hawk, and S Shark will be controlled by Cypher Pole, but S Snake would probably be controlled by Vegapunk because, I mean, she has to go to the lab to get the Straw Hats, right? And yeah, after he got punched and says that the Seraphim are now under our control, yeah, that's the end of the chapter, and there's a break next week. So, whew, finally finished talking about that. 32 minutes of talking already, what the heck. While reading it, it was pretty short, but it was packed with information. So, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but let me just say, so now we get to see fights, we get to see new forms, we get to see more lore, and especially we get to know more about the devil fruit, right? Because now is the time to uncover every little secret, right? Since we're at the final saga, basically. So we get to know more about the devil fruits, about how it's basically a look into the potential of humanity's evolution. We get to see Luffy in Gear 5 again fighting, actually fighting in Gear 5 since back in the Wano arc. And we also get to see Lucci's new form, right? His awakened form. And also new attacks, which is great. But I've also mentioned just now about the gripes, and that little gripe, and I want to mention it because I don't know if we've seen a lot of it, but from the top of my head, I can see Luffy having that smoke collar, Lucci having that smoke collar thing, and also Yamato. So when I saw Yamato having that smoke collar, plain. Anyway, I'm doing well. The week has been nice. Can't wait for Christmas. Gonna have lunch after this. And okay, back to it. So, the gripe I have is, although I don't think we've seen much, I'm starting to get worried because I can understand Yamato having that collar because she's technically a deity in a sense, right? Like Wano's guardian. Yeah, Wano's guardian, right? In terms of like their mythology. But this random leopard fruit, like, and I did mention previously in the previous video that if he were to awaken, would he have like some sort of leopard god or something like that? But from what I've seen in this chapter, it's still just an awakened leopard fruit. So out of all the directions they went with, they gave him like a smoke collar too. Just that it's black. I don't know for what reason there is. It's a small little gripe. Like, I still like the design, don't get me wrong, but it's like, are we gonna see more of that? Like, just random awakened fruits having that smoke collar? Let's say Kaku is giraffe fruit, right? That is clearly, unless you're telling me there's a giraffe god, then that is clearly just a giraffe fruit. And he awakens it and he has that collar too? Or is that just for every awakened Zoan fruit? Because, to be fair, Kaido also has that smoke thing, but I mean, he's a dragon and he needs to like move around with the clouds, right? But then if it's every awakened, awakened Zoan fruit, then Chopper would have had it, right? Unless he's gonna have like a double awakening. Then there's gonna be what, double awakenings? Then that's gonna get crazier. So yeah, that's a little gripe. I don't know if you guys find it to be a little bit weird. Like, it's still nice, but I don't know. Hopefully there isn't like too much of that collar thing going on. And the rest is great though. The rest of the chapter is great though. The fights, the new moves. Obviously, I said that fights are just bonus, but when there are and when it's done well, it's great. It's great. This chapter is great. The lore, more expansion on the lore, more characters. We might see Kizaru. We already seen Sentomaru. We're gonna see more of the Seraphim and I guess more of Boa, right? Or rather Boa's Seraphim, because she's gonna potentially be like traveling with the group. Potentially though, I'm not sure. And that would be cool though if she were to travel with the group and then they stumble upon the real Boa. I want to see how she reacts to it, right? So besides that, yeah, nothing. Okay, I have a lot to say, but I don't want to ramble too much. It's gonna be a huge video. It's gonna be a long video, and this is a one take, so there's not much editing to. Not much. There's no editing at all, so I don't want to put you through that. This chapter, I'll give it a 9.2 out of 10. Not that it isn't there. There's a small gripe with the design of Lucci, but besides that, it's not enough to give a minus 0.8 from an otherwise perfect score, right? But for me, even if it's a 9.5, it's not a perfect score of a 10, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just I don't want to willy-nilly just give 10 out of 10s to everything. So I think a 9.2 is great, and 9.2 out of 10 for me for this chapter. It's very good. And yeah, that's all, I guess. So I guess you know what I'm gonna say. We're at the end of the video. If you like this video, if you like what I talked about, please like and subscribe. If you have anything you want me to react to, you have anything you want to say, just comment it down below and I'll be sure to read it. And yeah, Christmas is coming. How are you guys feeling? I'm feeling great. Can't wait for it. I'll probably be doing some Christmas video, hopefully, if I don't get lazy. And yeah, that's all for today. Thank you guys. Peace. See.